My name is Brian Kagan. I live here in Denver, Colorado. I am a strategic brand advisor. I love to facilitate dialogue with people, and that's where my passions lie. I have 2 children and 5.5 grandchildren, one in the oven. I remarried about 4 years ago to a wonderful woman who's an educator for many years. We actually got married and exchanged our covenant and vows standing in the Sea of Galilee in Israel. So that was a pretty powerful thing.
I'm Karen Bushman, and I grew up in the Denver area. I have 3 children who I really enjoy spending time with. They are all in their teens right now. Teacher, trying to get involved in the Montessori program and become a lead teacher there.
My name is Keith Wilson. I live here in Golden, Colorado. I'm married to a beautiful woman, 2 21-year-old stepsons, twins, and 11-year-old boy and an 8-year-old girl. Our house is very noisy and busy, and there's always something going on. I was lucky enough to be raised in a Christian household. And it really wasn't until I got into college and I met some friends who were really truly Christians and started seeing how they lived their life, and it was not at all the way I was living what I thought was the Christian life. I was not really a Christian. Even though I believed that Jesus died on the cross for my sins, I had not surrendered my life to him, and it wasn't until I had done that I think I really truly became a Christian.
I was raised as a nice Jewish boy from Brooklyn. Went to college and really through a series of events in my life became disenchanted with organized religion. And I would say that I was pretty much a person who believed in God, but believed in more of a New Age kind of thing, that God was everywhere. When I was living in Nashville, I did some work for the Christian music business. I found that I started reading the Bible because when they were talking about specific projects, I had to have a better understanding. And I was really intrigued with Jesus. I thought this guy was actually a very interesting guy. I felt as though if I pursue this calling to go deeper in my faith, I would be turning my back on my heritage. I'll never forget it. I said the prayer and realized that I was a Messianic Jew. And everybody, when I tell them that, they acknowledge that makes sense, except I say to them that's not the reason why I say I'm a Messianic Jew. It has that word that I think explains the Christian walk more than any, which is the word messy.
I grew up in a Christian home, and I accepted Christ at probably 7 or 8, just in Sunday school. Just growing since then, different conferences or youth groups and different things, and finding, learning through difficult times, how to rely on Christ instead of people, basically. One of the things that I've found that in my life is that I'm really almost always around Christians, and I don't feel that I'm reaching out at all. And so we had this offering for the spiritual art of conversation class at our church, and I thought that sounds really exciting. I feel like I should be reaching out more.
I'm interested because as I heard about the model, it really spoke to my heart. Well, just because it's an informal, non-threatening environment, where we're not preaching to them. I think a lot of people that I come across and if they don't go to church, well, why don't you go to church? Well, I don't want to be preached to. I think that, basically starting from the basics and, asking questions like, okay, who is God? And, that I think would go a long way towards reaching the lost, and I think it's kind of a very fascinating idea.
Why I think that Q Place might work is because that I believe that inherently all of us are struggling for deeper meaning in our lives. I'm hoping that I won't crash and burn is one of my issues. I'm hoping that the people that I have a chance to meet, I'll have the opportunity to be a presence in their life. I like to use the phrase that the fragrance of Christ will be around me. The fears that I have related to this is that I won't get out of my own way, and what I mean by that is that I have a tendency to be in control. The beauty of this model is it's not about my opinion. The word is the word. And creating the dialogue about that is the most important part. So what my hope is that I don't step on other people and I don't try to control something that's not meant for me to control.
I'm feeling pretty good. Yeah, I think that this is going to work. I'm excited about what's going to happen here.
just to keep the main thing, why don't we start off with some prayer? Karen, would you open us up in prayer, please? Here's one of the big questions. This is the question: why are you interested in starting the Q Place?
I think this is seems like a very good place to not only grow myself, but also to be able to lead people towards Christ.
So you're not a Christian expert, is what you're saying?
Oh, I'm not. No, definitely not. That's one of the things that attracts me to this. Is that I don't have to be an expert.
Right. Yeah. Isn't that nice?
Yes.
What about you?
Like in the Spiritual Conversations book, it really, just says be friends with people and let God do what He does.
Right.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So it sounds like in both instances, as well as with me, is to give yourself some a better way to feel about how you live out the Great Commission, how we evangelize or share. So this next question then leads us to, all right, so here we are, we talk about these things, and now we got to say, okay, well, we need 6 people. So the question is, who do you know that who might be interested in participating in a Q Place? I'll go ahead and start. There's a couple people I think about. One is a guy named Dennis. The other person is actually a guy named Josh. He and I began to spend some time together, and I could notice that he feels sort of isolated, and so I befriended him.
My two that have been on my heart lately, I've got a friend named Dave. I'm not exactly sure where he's at, but I get the sense that he's seeking. And my next door neighbor, Lou, he has described himself in the past as being spiritual. Now, what that means, I'm not exactly sure. But we've invited him to church, and he's always declined.
So?
Well, I have been taking a class over the summer, and in an effort to save gas, we developed a carpool. I don't even remember how it came up, but we've had some spiritual conversations.
So there's some interest.
Yes.
That's, if each of these people come, what do you think is the greatest fear that they're going to bring with them?
Well, I think that... especially in Lou's case, that he is going to just think that we're just going to try to convert him right off the bat.
Okay.
We're going to preach to him, and we're going to convert him, because I think he's been there, done that. Right. And he's not interested in that at all.
Okay.
Yeah.
What about you?
I agree with the, trying to convert us. That's definitely one I could see that being.
My thought, in reference to Dennis, because of his age and what he might have been exposed to, my guess is it's you're trying to sell me something. Mm-hmm. Okay, so one thing that we can do to help them to assuage those fears. First thing comes to your mind.
I think for me, just that making them aware that it's just discussion, and I'm not going to try and convince you to think my way. We're just talking.
Right. Just kind of try to convince them that we're just going to talk about God and questions about God, and again, so we're not trying to sell you anything. We just want to explore the truth together. I
want them to see that even though I may be a Christ follower, I'm still seeking. And I think that probably is the hardest thing for us to do when we're excited about sharing something like that.
For me, I think it's kind of the hard thing for me to do is the inviting people to this. And I feel comfortable that once we get a group that we can participate, and that's no problem. But the whole getting people together is the part that I'm a little fearful of.
What is your? Just tell me real quickly. What's your greatest fear in that? I'm fearful that
this really. The fear is not really founded in anything. It really isn't, because what's the worst they could say? No, right? Like, no, I'm not interested in that.
I think that's my greatest fear, is that, and maybe that I've offended that person, and maybe have potentially infected my friendship with that person.
Well, and you kind of have this. You feel like, well, if they say no, I've failed them somehow. Right. But it's not our responsibility to have them say yes. To kind of let go of that, like. And if I do it wrong, it's going to ruin them forever.
Yeah, well, it sounds like we're on the same page. Well, thank you. I want to be respectful of our time, so this is as much as we need to do today. I think it'd be appropriate for us to close in prayer. Would you close us in prayer, please?
Sure. Dear Heavenly Father,
it's kind of a hard thing to, how long do I just listen and be there for them? And where do I say, hey, I know some answers for you. Like you said, they don't always want an answer. Sometimes they just want you to listen.
Right.
But they still need the answer at some point because we care about these people that we've talked about. We want them to have a relationship with Christ. So in a way, it's definitely, that's what I want to see. And I would be disappointed if it doesn't get there. But I don't think that what we're doing is ever not a success just because we're reaching out. I mean, I want it just because I care about them, but it may, like you said, be leading to something that leads to something that leads to something that someday may end up in their relationship with Christ developing. But I definitely think whatever we're going to do is going to be a success because we're asking God to be present, and He's going to do, what we're asking Him to do. He's going to be present. He's going to work, and that person still has free will.
What about you, Keith?
I think I agree with you. I agree with you. I mean, we can't make someone accept Christ. That's God's got to work in their lives. Right. We can plant seeds, and I think that's what we should focus on here. Maybe we don't get to harvest the crop here, but we can at least plant seeds.
Today, what we want to do is we're gonna talk about chapters 4 and 5 in the How to Start a Q Place. So the key right now that I want to do before we talk about some other stuff in preparation for this, is there anything in there? Does all that make sense? Are you comfortable with all of that? Is there anything in this basic format for the trial meeting that you don't feel comfortable with or want to talk about?
No, it seems straightforward and ready to do this.
What about you, Karen?
In terms of the trial meeting, I think it sounds great. Still a little, concerned about the invitation thing, but.
Well, I'm sweating bullets. Yeah. So to that point, if there is one logistic though in the trial meeting that is of concern, is there? You're saying it's the invitation.
Yeah.
For you, same thing?
Yep.
That's probably for me the same thing, so yeah. The last thing we'll do is talk about the guidelines, and I think it's a good thing before we get into this to talk about the guidelines, and I'll just go through these real quick.
So how did our invitations go?
I'm pretty amazed. Actually, I had some people over at our house, some friends that we know, and I had a moment where it was a nice pause, and I said I just wanted to suggest something that I'm working on. It felt very natural. I told them what we were doing. I told them about the project, all the things that we've talked about. Mm-hmm. And I had 3 people immediately say they were interested to ask me some questions.
As I was hanging out with my friend Dave, and I was really, praying, how do I come up with this? What am I going to say? And I'd never really talked, had any kind of spiritual discussion with Dave, and out of the blue, he comes up with this story about how his kid is going to daycare at this Baptist, minister's house or something. It's like a Christian daycare. And I was like, whoa, it just shocked me. Okay, well, let's talk about this now. And so we talked a little bit about that. And, I kind of invited him to, start talking about Q Place. And he said, I'm really not interested in spiritual things. I'm just, but, it went better than I thought it would.
Good.
I mean, as far as me, it was something that I was nervous about. But then after I did it, I went, well, that was really not that big of a deal.
Really not a big deal. God provided it, and just the way that through the people that we've been working with, that we were able to get the people to come. I think we're going to have 6 people here.
Right. Well, on that note, maybe we should pray for what we will hope to happen at the next meeting. So, would you be willing to pray for that?
Lord, glorious Father,